Hello, welcome to this video by Indicator Vault. And in this video, we are going to go over the pullback factor indicator. And as its name suggests, it is basically going to tell you when pullbacks or retracements, as you might also say, are completed and where the trend may continue to move down. And of course, we know price does not move in just one direction continuously. For instance, we will get sharp moves down like this, but what do we have here in this normal price action? Retraces or pulls back up, then another move down, pulls back up, another move down, pulls back up, retraces, and then continues down. That is normal price action. That is how we, also gauge trends. So we have the high, and it creates a lower high, and then another high, but again, being lower than this one, indicating a downtrend. And of course, we have the lower lows, this low here, and then this lower low, and then this lower low. So what this indicator does is it is telling us when the pullbacks or retracements are essentially over or going to be over very soon, and when the trend is going to continue. So for this example, we have a downtrend, down movement. And as we see this line here, kind of oscillating up and down throughout, the indicator panel, we have this 1.5 line. And so anytime that this blue line here is going above the 1.5 line, that is when we are going to start expecting that the pullback is reaching its end and that the current trend should continue on. So as I zoom out here a little bit more, like I said, a little bit of a movement up and then sharp move down, and then we start to see this movement telling us price is in a downtrend. And of course, we see that continue to play out here very well. So we're just going to go through some of the examples for it. Lower low here, price moves up. What do we have here? Poking above the 1.5. And then of course the classic fib is going to even tell us finding the current price range that price is in, pokes up into the premium side of the range already, with the pullback factor telling us, okay, now it is going to start to expand lower. That's exactly what we see here. Another very sharp move down. Get rid of that. Move down. What happens? Retraces up. As the same time, the pullback factor is telling us, okay, the retracement is over. We should see another move down. And this is what's, as I zoom in more here, very helpful, because preferably for me, I like to look for liquidity taken in the premium side of the range first before a trend is going to continue and expand, whether lower or higher. I consider gaps liquidity. And of course, as we can see here, the low of this gap was just tapped into, but we also have this gap up here. And so with the pullback factor, first poking up here and then more, I would not have first gotten in here because look, there's no liquidity it's tapping into here. But then it moves up a little bit more. So we now have those two confirmations where liquidity has been taken while the pullback factor is above the 1.5. And we see price then makes another strong move lower. And so taking that into account, if this gap would have been reached into while this was above it, that would have been another great confirmation, but we have it already tapped into. And honestly, if I'm using this indicator and I saw this liquidity tapped into here, but the pullback factor was below the 1.5, I would have been hesitant to get in a sell trade, because what the pullback factor is telling us is there could still be some more upside movement to take this liquidity instead before it continues down. And then before we move on to the next example, I do want to mark out the premium and discount range of the current price range that it was in. We see it create this low coming from this high, wicks into just barely. But again, that goes into what I was saying about there's two, price levels here of liquidity. Yes, it does take the premium side of the liquidity here just barely, but the pullback factor is telling us here that we can probably expect that to hold and for it not to continue up into this one. And of course, we see that play out beautifully and then a very strong gap down. And now moving on to another example, I do want to point out that this indicator will also give sell and buy signals along with it. Not for every time that it pokes above the 1.5, but when there's extra confirmation, it will paint these signals. And of course, as we can see, strong move down, indicating a downtrend where you have lower highs and lower lows, and very tight and consolidating ranges. So it's tough to truly pick out, which lows or highs are going to hold and which are going to be just future liquidity taken. I want to zoom in here on this section of price and kind of go over a little bit of that. So again, clearly a downtrend. So we're looking for retracements up to also correlate with the pullback factor going above the 1.5 level. And so we see this, technically this higher high according to here, but then it makes a lower low. And we see this high taken. So as it's taken, the pullback factor is properly telling us that, that retracement up should end soon. And of course, we see this strong move down here. So I did want to point out that, with the pullback factor, as we see it going above the 1.5, isn't always going to show that, the previous high, if we were in a downtrend, is going to hold. It can act as liquidity, which we see that here. Of course, if you're nimble enough, you could have gotten in probably on some of these wicks here and then set your stop above another high further back. But one thing I want to point out, if something that is very strong confirmation with this indicator, if you see the pullback factor going above 1.5 and it does take a previous high, but of course, we do see it play out, makes a very strong move down to create a lower low. Make note of this high, because next time that the pullback factor goes above 1.5 and is kind of retesting this high but not taking it, this is a very strong confirmation that this high will hold. So you could probably enter maybe above this candle, or maybe wait for confirmation of an order block or something else here. Of course, we see as it shoots back up above the 1.5, that high most definitely did hold. Very strong move down. But just to give extra confirmation of, having confidence in which highs or which lows are going to hold, you will almost never see two in a row happen like that. So as this high with this pullback factor going above, and again, the indicator is correct. It nailed it spot on. Took a lower low would have given a great, down move here. But given that it created a higher high and also a lower low, we can very reasonably, with some good confidence, believe that this high will not be taken like this one was, that this one is going to be the one that is going to hold. It's not going to get, broken twice in a row. As long as you're, confident in your bias, whether it's a downtrend or uptrend, you know, having it go above here, never breaks that high, and then a super strong move down would have been a great trade. And then one last example here on the Google 30-minute chart. I've added the natural momentum indicator to here, and this is a great one to pair with it because this is measuring momentum in the market. And just as, pullbacks or retracements are part of momentum, correlating these two is going to work wonders. For instance, we see this downtrend, another sharp move here. And just to clarify, the darker red signals, that's part of the pullback factor. Then these pink ones and then these lighter blue ones are the natural momentum indicator. And so we know we're in a downtrend. Pullback factor is giving us a sell signal here. Moves down, lower highs and lower lows. And so one thing to look for if you're going to pair these two together, as we have this move up, we are also having the pullback factor go above 1.5, and correlating with that, as the momentum in the natural momentum indicator is going up, we have it turning from green to red. And it does briefly turn green again, but turns red very soon after, just one or two candles later, correlating with the pullback factor right here, telling us that this retracement up is coming to an end and we should see another expansive move to the downside. That's what we do see. A little bit of a smaller move, again, making more intermediate lower lows, retracement up, and then we get this strong move down, creating this lower low, just wicks below it. And again, we're still downtrend, so these natural momentum indicators or signals here, we're not putting high confidence on them because we want to trade with the trend, the buy signals that is. The sell ones, we are putting more confidence that they will hold. So we see that lower low, and then what happens? The exact same thing. Pokes up right as we go above the 1.5. And right as we are seeing the buy momentum or the upside momentum slowing down, turning red briefly, giving us a warning sign that it is, more than likely going to cool off and look for, moves to the downside. Green briefly again, and then red moving to the downside. So great one to pair with that, as you're seeing the 1.5, being poked above, and the momentum indicator is also telling us that momentum to the upside or downside. But in this example, that the move up is cooling down, and we should see the expansive move soon. And that's what we have here. Would have been a wonderful trade to the downside with this high holding. Very strong move. So I hope this video was helpful, and until next time, best of luck trading.